Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for watching another edition of this Small Business Show, exclusively right here at ASBN.com. On today's show, we are joined by Tom Matt, business consultant with Upsight Vision Consulting, to learn more about a new way of perceiving the world around us. I think you're really going to enjoy today's show. So Tom, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jim.
Sure. So for those viewers out there that are saying, what is Upsight Vision all about? Tell us from your perspective, what's Upsight Vision?
Okay, Upsight Vision is an ability that I somehow evolved into about 13 years ago. Let me describe it so you know exactly what it is. It's the ability to perceive and interact with holographic images that seem to be everywhere around us.
Okay.
Right? I came out of a crisis about 13 years ago, and all of a sudden I could do this. Now, let me tell you what they look like so I can give the listener, the viewer, an idea. If you've seen the movie Iron Man, there's a scene in his office where he's immersed in holograms, right? Now he can swipe left and swipe right and interact with them. I don't have that ability, but I do have the ability to bring them to manifest them or wherever they come from. We'll talk about that in a minute, and to change them with a thought. If you have not seen that, there's another movie called The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. Yeah. There's many scenes where the protagonist is laying on the bed, she's looking up at the ceiling, and she can move the chess pieces. They're up there.
Yep, that's right.
So this is that kind of thing.
Okay.
They're typically clear with a color tint. And
can you move them as well?
I can. Absolutely can if I want to.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. That's what we're talking about today.
Okay. Wow, you've got a lot of people's interest right now. So you did mention that this came from a mental health crisis. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So about 13 years ago, I owned an advertising agency in Atlanta, and I was having trouble with drugs, addiction. I was having the mental health crisis. The drugs fueled a psychosis. The psychosis fueled a complete break from reality. Okay. I walked out of my business, my family, everything. I traveled the globe, literally just spent all my money. I wake up one day in downtown LA or on the beach. I'm like, you know what? I think I need to get help. Now, most normal people have gotten help before then, but whatever. Something had to break.
Took you a little longer.
It did. It took me a little longer. So I checked myself in. I got clean and sober. Okay. And I've been clean and sober ever since.
Good. That's
great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But at the end of that first year, there was one day I was sitting on the couch and I was looking over, and I all of a sudden saw these holograms. And I was like, okay. And I knew that I could do this without drugs. And I knew that something had changed in me. So I was like, okay, like I said, I have to stay clean and sober. And immediately, like anybody else who would have this, they're more than likely, you're like, okay, I need to get an MRI. There's got to be a tumor. There's got to be something wrong for this ability. Sure. So I did. Yeah. Right.
Were you concerned at that time? Like, whoa, I'm seeing things.
I was curious. I was in awe, but there was definitely, I've seen enough movies where if somebody has this extraordinary ability, there's some bad part or curse with it. So I got 2 MRIs, right? And thank God there's no damage from drug use, no stroke, no lesion, nothing. Everything was all clear.
Right.
And the doctors are like, and this is, so basic, but they're like, listen, we don't know what happened. We don't know what's going on, but something must have been rewired in your brain to let you do this.
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Now I'm on a mission to find out what that is, right? Never mind the clinical side. Now I'm on the academic side. I'm emailing, and this took me 10 years emailing neuroscientists, anybody I could think of. I read any book you can on the brain and neuroscientists. Finally, in 2022, the Institute of Noetic Sciences got back to me, and they're like, well, this is really interesting. Maybe you can come up here and we can do some studies on it. Okay. Right? And I want to make one other thing, it's really important, or just a specific thing. This is not a vivid imagination. Okay. Right? This is not a vivid mind's eye. I had that with my ad agency. Okay. Right? This is external. I can't drive a car, right? I can't, because you can't drive a car when you use your mind's eye. My eyes get tired when I look at these things. Okay. There's something called smooth pursuit eye movement. When I follow something across the wall, you can't fake that if you're actually following it. Right. My pupils dilate when something is exciting, and my eyes get tired from doing that, right? Right. So all these things, I told them, and they're like, okay, tell you what, come up here. That was great, But we didn't do any of that. The science they did, and there's a peer review paper out now, right, is measuring my brain states against memory recall, or vivid mind's eye, and upsight vision.
Okay.
So we did 200 randomized tests, right? And what was extraordinary to me, and actually I shouldn't say that, I wasn't surprised. I knew there was going to be a difference.
Sure.
But they were like, all the scientists were like, okay, this is wild. Every brain state.
Did this institution, just to back up for a second, had they seen anything like this before?
No.
Okay.
Great question. Okay. No. And in fact, I've done so many research, I've emailed so many scientists. There's nothing really like that. Maybe ancient China or maybe some Muslim, mystic, but nothing recently. And the scientists were like, okay, every brain state, alpha, beta, gamma, theta, different from mind's eye, memory recall, and upsight vision.
Okay.
So that paper is out now, or no, it's just accepted. It's like a twice yearly publication. In the next 6 months, this will be out. It's accepted, so it's past the peer review thing.
Okay.
And you can find a link to that on my website.
Okay.
So that's where the science is around it.
Okay, so talk to us about the have you noticed any specific impacts that Upsight has on your daily life?
Okay, yeah. So in the beginning, as you can imagine, you shut your eyes, and I could do this eyes open or eyes shut.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, both. In the beginning, I did it with my eyes shut because it's easier to see, but I can do it with them open. So I would go to bed and I would see there would be something there, almost like a hypnagogic hallucination. So I would be like, all right, this is annoying. So I would just think of a river or a stream. And I started getting used to, picturing that when I go to bed.
Yeah.
So I used that to go to bed. There was another piece of it which I ignored or wasn't sure about, that maybe where are these things coming from? So if you and I are talking about cooking a pizza, right? If I looked over there, there's a 50% chance it would be somebody cooking a pizza or pizza. There's another 50% chance it could be an elephant riding a bike. Right? I mean, it could. So if we know we're having the conversation around the pizza, it's related. If not, where did that come from? Right? Why is that there? And that's one of the things the scientists were IONS were curious about.
And does the elephant riding the bike have more to do with you or with me?
Again, speculative.
Okay.
So, and where does it come from?
Right.
Okay. So about engaging with other people. And so 6 months ago, this is where the business side of this came in. This is where I was like, you know what? I talk about this on a lot of podcasts, and when I do, people come forward and they say they have this to some degree or another.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So, and that's true mostly, but I wrote a PDF called The 8 Stages of Upsight Vision.
Okay.
So you can download that on my website.
We'll show all the information here on the screen.
Yeah. Okay, so I knew people kind of had it, but I also I thought to myself, they have to have it like I do to have a conversation. I think you can communicate this way. In the meantime, if they don't have it, maybe I can engage with somebody if they give me permission, and I kind of can look inside at their dream state. And that is what I've been doing the last 3 months.
Very cool.
And it's taken off like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done 100 people already.
Right. Can you also, when you tell them what's around them and you're seeing these things, can you interpret it for them? Or do you just kind of say, I don't know what that elephant riding the bike means, but I want to let you know it's there?
So great question. I tell them I'm the IKEA of this business. I give them the tools, I give them the furniture, but they've got to put it together. Or maybe you can think of it as a radiologist looking at the X-ray.
But then don't you leave them with more questions?
No, hold on. No, they do. But a lot of people have mentors. They have counselors. They have friends and family they can talk to about it. And half the people that I do this for are putting it into AI to look at the symbolism.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah, so
think about that.
When they did that, they're sending it to me. But here's the thing. So I say I do that. So let's see, I do a 5-minute read, and then make no mistake, I will have a discussion from my business experience and also around experiences with this kind of symbolism. So I don't leave people hanging. Right? We do, we have a closure on this session. But the coolest thing about it, I said, I've just gotten 100. It took off like crazy. 2 markets I didn't think about, and maybe it makes sense. One of them is musicians, composers, like Grammy-winning people have come forward to have their things done. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I'm talking like top-tier producers and engineers and
why musicians? Why specifically does that resonate?
I think it's because there's something, they're picking up something like me, and they're like, oh, that gets it. That guy gets it. That's what I think. And the other people that have come forward are actually business owners, successful people people that might see a value in this. Now, and the other thing is, that, to me, the obvious when people are into metaphysics, people that, this completely resonates with.
So how is it helping business owners, especially for our audience?
All right, so most business owners, or not most, but many are stuck on something, right? But they don't know what it is. Consciously, they're working on the business.
Yeah, we all hit a plateau, right?
Right, and there's something going on consciously.
Right.
Let's have a session. This could bubble up. Let's see what it is. Because if you're sitting there you're talking about this, but every time I do a reading, that's what I call them, and I literally just read this thing that radiates from the person. And I can do it online or in person, doesn't matter. That can be related to it. Again, just like I said, sometimes they're not. So if there's some things that are coming up again, that's where maybe further analysis should be done.
Okay.
All right. Again, I'm not a psychoanalyst. I'm not a doctor. Just an intelligent guy that's like, hold on a minute. And let me give you. You want me to give you an example of something that just happened?
Sure.
So this is literally related to business, and also it sets the tone of what it is and what it's not, the opportunities. All right. So I was at the end of one, and at the end, the last question, he's a business owner. He's like, I've got a deal. It's like, is this deal going to go through? And keep in mind, this is not a psychic, right? It sounds a little bit like that.
It definitely does. Okay. I'm sure people are going, oh, he's a psychic.
No, but there's untapped human potential. How about that?
Okay.
Maybe just to stay away from that word.
All right.
I'm not completely against it, but and remember, the stuff that's coming is coming from inside of you, right?
And you're also not telling people this is your future.
No,
you're
exactly.
saying this is what I see,
right?
And then it's up to you to interpret it with a little bit of guidance.
Of course, your own intelligence, your own, intuition, and intelligence. So this tees up this question perfectly. So it's like, is this deal going to go through? Tell me about this deal. So I'm starting reading it, and this man is sitting on a bench, and there's another person that comes into this thing with a pair of scissors to trip him up, and he cuts his shoelaces. So, and I'm just reading what I'm seeing, and I'm like, okay. And he's hearing this, and he's going, right? And then that same person comes around, and he's at a board meeting facing him. So now you're in a scenario where the person that was doing some shenanigans behind the scene is in front of him. And again, this is like a dream. Let's be clear, things change. So that was the scenario. And the person that was holding these scissors in this reading that I did became like an ally. It went from somebody as a nemesis and somebody that maybe could sabotage it to somebody who pointed out things that maybe had a problem with that we need to fix for the deal to go through.
Good point.
Okay. So all that to say is he's, and I was done. He's like, oh, I know who that is. I'm like, back up. You don't know who that is. This could be you. Yeah. This is the point. All of this could literally be a part of you.
You could be sabotaging your own deal.
Sure, that you don't know. Right. There's a part of you that doesn't want to do it. So you can't just run out and think this is true. That's really important to know. These things are clear, they're in focus, but work needs to be done just like anything else.
Sure.
The IKEA furniture thing is a good example.
Yeah, no question about it. And these are so where are you now in this whole process? I mean, what is your business model on this to help others?
So there's two things I'm doing. One, and the one of them is I'm doing readings for people to come forward. Okay. I'm doing readings, and again, I said the metaphysics, the business owners.
So for people that are watching right now, they could
go to my website.
Okay,
and I have different types of readings.
Okay.
If you think you want help, the thing people say, they're stuck on this, or they want some guidance on this, or they don't know what's going on with this. So that's the number one thing. But there's another possibility too, which I've offered it, but it hasn't been picked up yet. Is, listen, everything is AI, right? Everything is AI. There's this human potential that we're kind of moving away from. The idea is for me to work with a creative team, right, and literally build some kind of the creative team that doesn't help with the AI.
Okay.
Let's see what's there, because whatever this is tapping into is it's an intelligence, and there is this. Noosphere, whatever you want to call it, intelligence that I'm tapping into and accessing. And it's so much smarter and more advanced than the AI. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking AI, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's all our brains uploading to the cloud and that pushing it back.
Right.
There's some other thing here that needs to be explored, and there's huge opportunities for any smart, early adopter, for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's communication element to it. Think about it. These are waves.
Yeah.
There's a technological opportunities on this. And I've been talking about this from the scientific standpoint for the last few years. This is the first time, again, with the business side, I'm like, you know what? I want to help people, face to face, because there's something here. And I think I have that for this reason, one of the reasons.
Have you spoken to other people that, since you've been out there? I know you've done a ton of different podcasts and such, and been out in the press with this. Have there been others that have come forward that have contacted you to say, hey, I've got these same superpowers?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that's why I have the PDF. And so here's what I like to do. Everybody can sing, but everybody can't be Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Everybody can't be Adele.
Yeah.
So they have it to one degree or another. Maybe they think it's a stage 8, but they're stage 4.
Okay.
So yeah, but don't get me wrong. There's people out there that can definitely do it. Like somebody I've talked to many times, he can see them, but he can't change them with a thought. So he can see these things.
Okay.
And listen, every tech bro in the world talks about how we're living in a holographic universe.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And if this is any indication,
you and
that's
I
certainly
might be
true.
holograms right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. That is very, very, very exciting. I know you've probably gotten the attention of many of our audience right now to say, well, what is this? And I want to learn more about this. You've got a website, right? I think you even wrote a book on the topic.
Well, I wrote a book about, actually, it's not on the topic, very important point. I wrote a book called Jesus Goes to Hollywood, A Memoir of Madness. It's about my, it's about
Jesus Goes to Hollywood.
It's about my 1 year
Jesus
of psychosis.
needs to go to Hollywood.
You're right. Well, I actually thought I was him, but that's in the book. Very short. That was a very high bar to reach and keep. Anyway, when I was unwell, so I wrote about my whole year, the ups and downs. And you know what? I just want to say this too. Absolutely, for a business owner, if you're going through something like this, because the stress of being a business owner is unbelievable.
It's incredible.
If I'd had somebody like this to talk to, 13 years ago, that might have helped.
Yeah.
So I want to let people know that even if you crash out and lose everything, you can get everything back. Except actually, I did not get my business back.
Right.
I got my family back. My kids love me. My wife's back. The business absolutely was gone.
That's right.
But it's a new path after
that.
But
as you know, with entrepreneurs, one door closes, another one opens, or 5 more open.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And it could be that this brings you to a whole new world here, both in business and personally.
Without a doubt, yeah. And I'm talking about the business side and how I can help business owners and stuff like that. But there's the scientific side, right? The academic research around this is just a beginning. I look at it like Leeuwenhoek looked through the microscope to start microbiology, right? I didn't need technology to do this. Right. Something happened in my brain, it changed to look at this, but I really do think it's going to be some kind of science around this moving forward, and I'll have a part in it.
Yeah. Wow, that is very, very exciting. So for people that are listening to us have this conversation, this is something that we encourage you to look further into. We're showing all the information on the screen right now as to how to do just that. Tom will be available to you. I would imagine if they reach out to you, you'll connect with them. Whether
you can set up a schedule. Yeah, you can do the whole thing on Calendly and set up a schedule and do a session. Yeah,
that's perfect. Tom Matt, business consultant, Upsight Vision Consulting. Who coined the phrase Upsight?
Oh, actually, I did.
You did?
Okay.
Okay.
Because they're like, the science team was like, well, let's call holographic images. I'm like, but let's call Upsight Vision and then describe exactly what it is.
Right.
The ability to see and interact with holographic images that are everywhere around us. Pretty simple.
Does that come from your advertising background?
Well, it did.
Wait a minute. This is a concept. I think I can name it.
Right? And of course, my wife actually named it because she said, she goes, you're always looking up to the right.
Right.
And then people are like, well, it's redundant, Upsight and Vision. And there's a reason for that, because the sight is one thing, but it's also visionary. There's this like precog element. Okay. There's a visionary moving forward. Okay. Anyway.
That's fantastic. Tom, Matt, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. I know that our audience will get a lot out of it. So thanks.
Good. Thank you, Jim.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.